Excellent. All right. So as Jason said, I'm Brian Kovalski. I don't know my own name, and I didn't have a COVID shot. Senior Vice President of Sales at Hypori, and I'm going to walk you through a couple of slides, talk to you about the problem and our proposed solution to that problem, and then leave plenty of time for Q&A because that's really what I enjoy doing. I don't like slides, and I find it that most people don't either. So what is Hypori? Hypori is a Android-based virtual mobile device. But in our world, mobility is really, it goes beyond the smartphone or the tablet. Mobility also includes a laptop. All of those physical devices come with, their own constraints. The biggest security problem is, of course, all of that data is sitting on those devices. With Hypori, we are not containerization software. All of the data stays in the data center, right? And so all that information resides in the data center, and you're just interacting with that data, with your data securely using our virtual mobile infrastructure. Guarantees 100% separation between the physical device and your sensitive data in the data center. There's never any data at rest, also never any data in transit. So what this means is far less risk to your organization, reduced costs, and increased security. And I think everyone wants a little bit of that. So where are we today? Over 60% of employees will use their mobile devices, their personal mobile devices, for work by the end of 2024. That is a fact. And so you add that wonderful thing called COVID, and that trend just accelerates exponentially. You add the fact that people are teleworking now, everyone has gotten comfortable with working from home and having their screaming kids running through the house. We've all learned to sort of tune that out and ignore that and focus on the task at hand. The problems just become exponential, right? My employer, Hypori, has no oversight over my internet connection to my home. They have no idea what other devices I have connected in my home, yet my work laptop, my MacBook, is part of that fabric and is interacting with Hypori's data. So Hypori solves a lot of challenges all at once when you're considering a bring your own device model for your company or for your organization. So real quick, left to right, you can buy everyone a phone, but that gets to be very costly. Security becomes a problem if the device gets lost. Now you have sensitive data that got lost. You're going to have to replace that phone. Hopefully, maybe you have an MDM on there, but if the device is not accessible because the thief or if it got lost in the water, data got connectivity is turned off. Now you can't remote wipe that device. You have a serious problem. Many states have adopted some pretty stringent laws with respect to data privacy on mobile devices. And so privacy is a big concern when you're thinking about MDM technologies. We don't have that problem. If you break a phone, now you got to replace a phone. Potentially you lose some data in the process. And of course, compatibility is always everyone's Achilles heel. The facts are these: healthcare cyber attacks are the most common with the highest price tag. And my personal belief is that's probably part of the reason why insurance premiums are so high, because somehow those costs have to get compensated for. In the first quarter of 2020, mobile phishing attacks on corporate users has increased by over 66%. That's a big number. That's, and the reality is the younger you go, the further down you go, down the age scale you go, I apologize, and meaning the younger workforce, they don't want to use desktops and laptops. They want to use their mobile devices, right? That's what they want to interact with. And more than 50% of CISOs say that mobile devices are now challenging to defend. Of course, it's a device that can go anywhere and can connect from anywhere globally. And it's very hard to secure. We already covered that. So how does Hypori work? So Hypori can be purchased as an appliance installed in your private data center, or you can purchase it from the cloud providers, Azure, AWS. The system stays self-contained within your instance. We deliver H.264 or high definition video pixels from our appliance or from our instance in the cloud to the physical mobile device. That can be any smartphone, tablet, laptop, desktop running iOS, Android, or Windows 10. So a very flexible product. And again, it's just video pixels, not video screenshots. So very efficient on bandwidth and bandwidth utilization. If you sort of overlay the cloud picture onto that and think about interacting with Microsoft Azure, sort of the Gov Cloud, Mil Cloud, right? Sort of secure Azure environments. You know, how do you make those connections, right? In today's model, you know, you would have to essentially lock that mobile device down to that environment, and it won't be able to interact with any other email or exchange services. And that makes it very difficult to for an employee to justify that, you know, giving up their personal device to the company essentially to be able to interact with corporate email. So Hypori enables you to still deliver corporate email in a secure fashion, and corporate resources, obviously, in a secure fashion without taking over the employee's phone. MDMs have been around for a long time, and anything that's been around for a long time is obviously going to get the attention of evildoers, and so attacks are only going to increase. And I can personally attest, I have a 13-year-old nephew. He manages to bypass the parental MDM that I enabled for my sister-in-law constantly. And she's constantly texting me asking to re-enable it. So they are not the end-all be-all when it comes to data. So Hypori is everything you need in one single device, accessible from any device. And the idea is to, you know, to really break the chains, the bond to that physical device, make the physical device a commodity item. You know, the days of buying expensive devices hopefully will go away. And now we can buy cheap devices and get the power of the cloud and the power of the data center behind us using Hypori. And a little anecdote there are over 24 versions of Android out there today. I didn't even know that. So in the end, we're going to help you reduce cost. We're going to make your world more secure and compliant. You're going to be able to manage and control your users, the apps they use, the data they use, how they use it, and when they use it. And it's easily adopted and embraced because Android is literally everywhere. So I think the next slide is Q&A. Yes, it is. And I'm going to bump out of the slides and answer your questions in chat. All right, let me slide.
Here I come. Hello there. Okie dokie. So let's just jump into some of this then. So there was a first question here very quickly. Will Hypori integrate with Duo?
Duo.
Duo, is that Duo Security? Can I ask, Luis, if you can please put that in the chat? I'm wondering if that's Duo Mobile FMA.
Oh, yeah. So I'm not sure if we've tested Duo yet, but we have tested a variety of MFA and 2FA solutions. And we integrate with almost all authentication mechanisms out there. So I would have to get back with the products team to make sure that Duo is on that list as well.
Fantastic, thank you. Is Hypori scanning the devices for risk factors, jailbreak, etc., or totally secured even if a device is compromised?
So we separate ourselves from the physical device, and in our security model, we actually treat the physical device as hostile to our solution. And so all of the security mechanisms that are in place prevent the physical device from ever touching the virtual device, except for obviously how we want it to, right? So of course we want to capture touches. If we want to enable the camera and a microphone, of course we're going to allow those. but we're never going to allow data to transit over. We do have the ability to detect some forms of jailbreak, but there's a lot of them out there, and I'm not sure if we capture all of them, but we do capture some of them. And you do, and by policy, you are not able to connect to Hypori using a jailbroken device.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there an option, any option in your solution for geofencing?
Yep, absolutely. You can designate a geofence or geozone where you want your users to connect from, because obviously we're talking to the GPS antenna on the physical device, so we know where you're connecting from, which means we can also limit you from connecting from a certain area.
Cool. And in addition to that, how does your solution differ from Meraki's MDM or MS Intune, Microsoft Intune?
So all MDMs, and I'll put Intune in that category too. Intune. So I'll talk about Intune first, right? Intune can only manage Microsoft applications, and it locks those Microsoft applications down to the identity that's tied to that Intune profile, right? MDMs either aim to take control of the total device or take control of a container that's running on the device. But in the end, the original design around MDMs are meant to control a device and what data is on it. In our solution, never any data at rest, never any data at transit. You can have a hacked phone all day long. We don't care because it's not going to impact the virtual device sitting in the data center, the one that you're securely accessing, and we're keeping safe, all in the same.
Right. How do you provision or populate the desktops for users? Can you customize apps desktops based on AD attributes?
Yep. So on the back end, we integrate with Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, all those things. To include group policy, right? So whatever group policy you set for your organization, you can get Hypori to comply with those as well. All of the applications that are inside your virtual Android environment are there because an administrator gave you access. And so every single app that's there is there by policy. And unless you give a user access to the Google Play Store, there's no way for the user to get apps into that environment, additional apps into that environment.
Got you. What type of reporting is available?
Whew, a lot. So, we capture a ton of syslog data, everything from, how hard are you hitting the screen, or how fast are you hitting the screen, what data is being accessed. There's a lot to be captured. We actually have a white paper that describes it much better than I can articulate it, and I can certainly send that out. But there's a ton of data about the user that gets exposed. When I say user, the user in the virtual device, not the physical device.
Thank you very much. In order for the solution to work, do you have to install a management profile on the device?
Nope. Hypori is an application that you download out of the App Store, Play Store, or Windows Store, or Microsoft Store, and download to your device. An administrator sends you a QR code. You use your Hypori client to take a picture of that QR code, and your account is provisioned just like that. It's super fast, super easy. We also know, so one of the things we do have is there's a certificate that installs itself on the physical device that you're installing Hypori onto. And that enables us to verify that A, it is you, B, it is you coming from an approved device, and C, you're accessing a virtual machine that you have authorization to connect to. So there is that certificate, but that's no different than the hundreds of certificates that get downloaded when you visit websites.
Awesome, thank you. On the mobile device, does it mimic actual mobile device interface, or does it deliver a desktop to the mobile?
We are native Android. So you are going to get a native Android experience. It auto scales by screen size. So it'll auto scale to any desktop, laptop, desktop. And you do have the option to use some launchers. So the Microsoft launcher for Android is pretty cool. I use that personally. I like that. We have our own client launcher that makes the phone look a little bit more iOS friendly, as I like to say. It's still Android, but it's just a little more easier, more seamless to use for iOS users, more user friendly for them. But yeah, it'll run from any device, but it's always going to be Android OS.
Fantastic. Could Hypori feed logs into a SIM or, for example, Sentinel?
Yep, yeah, Sentinel, Splunk, any of those, and I strongly encourage all my customers to do it. Most of them have SIEM tools in their environment anyway. Again, there's so much data that gets generated. It really is overwhelming, and the SIEM tool is going to make sense of that information.
Great. What if users uninstall Hypori? I mean, there's no enforcement of the usage of it.
So our existing customers today have made it so that their environments can only be accessed using the Hypori client. They no longer allow things like Microsoft Outlook to directly connect to their environments. They have turned that off, and the only way you can get in is through the Hypori client. So yes, a user can delete the Hypori client off their phone. They have every right to do that, but they're not going to get to their work profile.
Okay, and Jenny actually is in the audience. There's a Hypori rep in the audience here, folks, obviously helping out with some Q&A on the chat box, but she did answer the question. I just want to throw it to you as well. Are your data centers primarily in North America, or are they available in EU and APAC?
So our appliance and our managed service offering, which is essentially our SaaS offering, that's in North America. We are partnered with both AWS and Azure, and so we are available in the EU and APAC. We would just have to, go through those hurdles with Azure or AWS, depending on who you choose to host it with.
Got you. And another question just came in. I know you've already mentioned this, but just to reiterate, Hypori is just an app you just download from the App Store, essentially, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you. Will SSO features work on top of your platform?
Yes. So all of the single sign-on features on the back end can be enabled. Obviously, we strongly recommend that you use some sort of 2FA or MFA technology on the front end to get into Hypori. And then once you're inside Hypori, you can use something like Intune or others to validate who you are on the intranet, right, on the internal network. And all that integrates easily with single sign-on, Office 365, all that stuff.
Great. Can it extend to additional monitors?
Yes, actually, I had to think about that for a hot second. So I believe Samsung, if I got this right, has a little dongle. I think it's called Dex, if I'm not mistaken. For if you have a Samsung phone that's running Hypori, you can use that Dex dongle with that Samsung phone and broadcast to monitor, mouse, and keyboard. So yes.
Great. What does the high-level architecture deployment look like? Do you need an on-premise MDM solution?
No, you do not need an on-prem MDM solution because the whole idea is for you not to care about the physical phone. Now, of course, if it's a corporate phone or a corporate device that you've purchased and you want to continue to have some level of control over that device, then absolutely, you're going to have to use some sort of MDM technology. But in a BYOD model, no MDM is needed whatsoever. we essentially replace that technology.
Fantastic, thank you. How would you address the high latency challenge of VMI over MDM?
So we're a lot different than your traditional VDI, virtual desktop, right? So virtual desktop is done using screen scrapes, and those screens are sent in their entirety as picture blocks down to the terminal. We actually only send individual pixels. And so those individual pixels is what's sent from the data center or from the appliance to the device, and it makes it very bandwidth efficient, and it also makes it very capable of dealing with high latent networks. And so, I always say, stay within a 250 millisecond range, and you'll be okay. Anything outside of that, that's where you start seeing lag and jitter and sort of, delay in response. And then of course, we have a couple of patents on how we protect and do the transmission from the data center to the physical device. We took some protocols that are not normally used for that type of thing, and we're able to make that work. So very efficient. And I used to actually advertise, back when data plans used to be limited and cost you a lot of money. I would show case studies how we could save customers money on their data plans. People don't care about that anymore today because it's simply not a thing.
Thank you very much. We have a VDI delivery service to provide virtual desktops that work on mobile devices, but the screen is very small. I was interested to see if you did a virtual phone to make the phone both work via Hypori and private.
Yep, that's exactly what Hypori is. I mean, we're going to give you a virtual phone, and you're going to interact with your enterprise data using that virtual phone, just like you do VDI. But obviously, we are a mobile first product, not a desktop first product, which is really why we're VMI and not VDI.
Gotcha. Is your licensing scheme per devices or by data ingestion?
Neither, it's per user. So you can have as many physical devices as you want, as long as they're properly provisioned. And as long as Brian Kovalski has only one account and he uses 5 physical devices, that is 1 license per user per year.
Cool. I know you addressed this a little bit before as well, but just another question to confirm. For those in the Apple environment, is there an option for us?
Sure. So Hypori works on Apple devices, iOS, iPhones, iPads, sorry, and even MacBooks, as long as the chipset is ARM-based. You can even run Hypori on a Mac. And we do have a launcher that is what I consider iOS friendly, and it's any iOS user would find our client launcher would be comfortable with that.
Cool. Do you have any CJIS agreements in place?
I have to be honest, I don't know what a CJIS is.
One of the audience can help with that. CJIS agreements, no worries. Are laptops considered mobile devices in the context of all of this?
Yes, they are.
Okay, cool. Sorry, he mentioned a dongle for Samsung. What about Apple?
Okay. That is a good question. I don't think Apple has a Samsung DeX-like capability. I could be wrong, but I'm not. If they do, I'm not aware of it.
Great. CJIS, Criminal Justice Information System. Thank you very much, Tim Dubois.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I am aware of what it is. We are currently pursuing FedRAMP and 2 different ISO certifications, and one of those ISO certifications maps to CJIS. And I believe the ISO part is for CJIS specifically is going to be done because We do have a law enforcement customer that we're working with today, and that's why we're heading towards that.
Great. Any issues with scaling this to thousands of devices?
No. So our appliance model, our hardware model, it gets sold in 3 sizes: 1,000 user, 10,000 user, 100,000 user. Once you go above 100,000 users, you basically just need a whole new management console construct, just because you run out of IOs to create virtual machines. Now in the cloud, Azure, AWS, there are no restrictions. So, you know, the only limiting factor I would say is your budget.
Cool. Given the increased use of video conferencing tools, is this compatible with Teams, et cetera, et cetera?
Any application running in Google Play Store is compatible with Hypori.
Okay. Do you have customers using this on untrusted devices? For example, hotel business center computers, internet cafe computers, that kind of stuff?
Not those specific examples, but we do have customers that when they go on travel, they leave their corporate device home because they don't want to go through ITAR issues or potentially have their mobile device scanned by the host nation that they're traveling to. And they will just, you know, go to a cell phone store in that host nation, get the cheapest thing they can find, download Hypori, they get sent a QR code, they provision their account, and boom, they're right back into their work environment. When they're done, they, you know, delete the Hypori app and leave the phone in the country that they're in. So I'm actually seeing a pretty decent uptick in customers that have that requirement. Now that, you know, COVID restrictions are starting to ease and business travel is resuming, the same problems that existed pre-COVID haven't gone away. And, you know, there are certain countries that will confiscate your smartphone and attempt to scan it.
Great, thank you very much. If you're using the physical device camera, how are pictures not stored on the physical device?
So we have access to all of the physical attributes of a physical device, of a phone, of a tablet, using input-output channels, right? And so when I turn, we have our own camera app. And so inside Hypori, if I launch the camera app, if I'm allowed to, it's going to access the camera, both front and back. I can choose, and it's going to have that camera session open for that time. So anything I do inside Hypori stays inside the virtual environment, to include take pictures. When I do live demonstrations of the product, which I'm happy to do for you in our one-on-ones, I will actually show you, I will take a picture with Hypori. You'll see that picture in the Android photo gallery. I will flip to my iPhone. Yes, I use an iPhone, and pull up the last picture I took with my iPhone. And I promise you that picture that I took inside Hypori won't be on my iPhone.
Great, thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the line of questioning here. Matthew Chiodo, you have your hand raised. I'm going to ask you just to put in the chat box if you do have a question or you'd like something to say. I can give you the ability to talk. No, he's lowered his hand. No worries at all. Okay, Matthew. If anyone does raise their hand, I can give you the ability to speak, be the voice from beyond. No apologies required, Matthew. No apologies at all. So that does bring us to the end of the question. That was very quick fire. A lot of questions getting fired at you there, Brian. Thank you very much for tackling all of those. Obviously, thank you very much for just giving us the overview of Hypori in general. Folks, obviously in the audience, if you are interested in having a chat with the guys at Hypori, then just please give us a shout at Sync. We're more than happy to help connect you, so you can have a conversation about how you might be able to work together within your organizations. Bummer, I have an iPad and would love to have multiple screens. Yes, I can understand.
Well, I will, you know, because I do use an iPhone, iPad as well. I will research whether or not Apple has a similar product to Samsung DeX.
Awesome.
Now I'm curious.
Thank you very much. So that brings us to a close of the first session. So thank you everybody for your attention, and thank you very much for all your questions. That was really great. Thank you very, very much indeed. Thank you, Jenny, in the audience, for helping facilitate some of those questions as well. So session 1 is done. That is simply the first session of the day, though we have 2 more sessions coming. The first, which will come at the top of the hour, so just over 20 minutes. Digital IT governance is broken. Come and see what that is all about. And then we'll be closing off with the presentation in the wake of SolarWinds, personal reflections. At this point, I'd like to ask all the audience to join me in giving Brian a virtual round of applause, taking the time to be with us today.